Welcome into another edition of Mile High Hockey. Mike and Will with you as always. And Mike, I was in the building at Ball Arena yesterday, and oh boy, a lack of energy and the Avalanche looking flat against their rival Wild doomed them in a very disappointing loss. Had a chance to jump Minnesota into the standings, get in the top three of the Central Division. They lose 3-1. Outside of a couple great saves by Mackenzie Blackwood and an electric goal from Nathan MacKinnon, it was a snoozer. I felt bad for people. A lot of kids there with it being a holiday, a rare matinee start. And the Avalanche just gave them nothing to cheer about. A concerning outcome on Monday afternoon at Ball.
It is, and it continues a win one, lose one type pattern with this team right now. And it backs up the numbers with Val Nichushkin. I continue to find this fascinating, but the numbers over the time that Val has been with the Avalanche and in just this recent 3 weeks back it all up. Prior to Val getting hurt, they had gone 7-2-1. You do the math. That's a solid .650 or above winning percentage, which has been the record for the Avs ever since Val got here. When he's in the lineup, they win 65 to 70% of the time. But then Val goes out on New Year's Eve, and since then they've gone 4-4-1. And that backs up the overall sample size that whenever Val's not in the lineup, the Avs are basically a 500 team. So it continues to be a remarkable pattern when it comes to Val, and it goes to show you just how valuable this guy is to this team.
Yeah, he's not their best player, but I think we could safely say perhaps he's their most important player.
Maybe.
And people may come at you, oh, Nathan's more important, Cale's more important. Again, I'm not saying that he's better than Nathan and Cale. I'm saying the numbers, as Mike lines out, back up that he may be their most important. I mean, they haven't won back-to-back games this entire month. It's just been win, loss, win, loss. They can't find any consistency, and I put it in our description here on YouTube. Is this cause for concern, or is this a product of an 82-game slog?
There is some of that. It is a long season, and we're kind of in the dog days. While it's not here yet, it's still 3 weeks away. Some of these guys are already probably thinking about appearing for their country in the Four Nations face-off, so that is out there. But no, there is that inconsistency. And, you look at the Dallas game where we've been looking for that second-line production, right? And Casey Mittelstadt, who's been MIA for a good chunk of the season, he's paired up with Jonathan Drouin and Arturi Lehkonen, and they explode in the Dallas game. They combine for 10 points, 4 goals, 6 assists, and you're like, okay, good. Now we got something going here. Let's build on it, and then a flat performance. So Jared Bednar was kind of sarcastic in it. He was asked, how do you coach a team when you just look out and you don't see any energy?
Yeah.
He goes, take out the pom-poms.
Yep.
Be positive. Try to cheer them up. And he's just like, I don't know. I don't know what you do. You got to ask the players.
I was sitting right there when Jared made that comment. Definitely got a media chuckle. Maybe not as good as a Dove Valley laugh, but got the courtesy
little
media
fake
chuckle.
media laugh?
Yeah,
little fake media laugh?
fake media laugh. I chatted with Cale Makar and Mikko Rantenen in the Avs locker room yesterday as well. A couple things I want to point out there. First of all, Cale lamented that they only had a sense of urgency in the final 10 minutes. Well, at that point, it was 3-1. Marc-Andre Fleury is like 40 years old, still playing really well in net for the Wild. And it's, Cale's not going to answer it, but I think the obvious question is, well, why do you only have a sense of urgency in the last 10 minutes? And then Mikko Rantenen lamented the lack of shots in the first 2 periods. Mike, they only had 11 shots through 2 periods. Yes, it was a 1-1 game because Blackwood had bailed them out a couple of times, but the Wild come out, and Yakov Trenin, of all people, had a stint with the Avalanche, beats him on a wrister, another wrister just a minute later. You look up, it's 3-1, 16 minutes to go in the game, and the Avs were toast.
Well, there is something to the long grind of the season, and I wonder if when they made all the changes in goal, that energized everybody, right?
Yes,
and
it gave him a boost.
It gave him a boost, but then maybe the newness of Mackenzie Blackwood wears off a little bit. Now you're back into the grind of the season. You don't have Val Nichushkin, and now all of a sudden the grind becomes the grind. But it's a 10-game sample. I still feel really confident about the pieces that are in place here. But yes, you need to see more consistency, especially as Bednar talked about. You're talking about a conference where you have a good week, you can climb over 2 or 3 teams. But conversely a bad week, a mediocre week, you can drop. And as we sit here right now talking, The Avalanche are a wild card team.
Mm-hmm.
They missed an opportunity to jump over Minnesota into that third slot. So right now, they're a wild card team. The good news is the teams behind them are quite a ways behind them. The teams that are in front of them are right there.
Yeah, they'll take on Winnipeg on Wednesday night at Ball Arena. Any hope of winning the Central, and you feel like you got to start getting 2 points in those games while taking the Jets to 0. Another interesting wrinkle over the weekend, Mike, this quarter century team came out for the Avalanche. These things are always a little manufactured because they get us talking. We're talking about it right now. I know you had some thoughts on it, and just sort of go through with me. Were there any snubs, surprises, that kind of stuff of the best players over the last 25 years? For the Avs?
I think what makes it so fascinating is that you've had two dynamic golden ages of Avalanche hockey, right? You had back in the early 2000s with the team that won a couple of cups, and now you got this squad. And so it's a fun debate to have. Were those teams, was those Stanley Cup teams better than the Stanley Cup team that won a couple years ago?
Well, they definitely made deeper playoff runs. They were in the Western Conference Final every year. The Avs have only been in the Western Conference Final once.
Fair point.
The year they won the Cup.
So, but it's a fun debate to have because you look at who made it onto the first team. It was Joe Sakic, Peter Forsberg, and Nathan MacKinnon, with Adam Foote and Cale Makar and Patrick Waugh between the pipes. Can't really argue with any of that. There was a little bit of debate, and I'll listen to it. I won't change my mind. I like Forsberg on that first team. But, some argument was made. The second team had Hayduk, Rantenen, and Landeskog. If you want to make the argument that Rantenen, because of his longevity, his production, the fact that he doesn't miss time, like Peter missed time, if you wanted to make an argument, I'd listen to that. Defense, the only argument I would have the second team defense, it was Rob Blake and Eric Johnson. Look, everybody loves EJ. He was a testament to longevity. But in terms of impact, I'd make more of a case for a Devon Toews, a Sandis Ozolinsh. I'd even talk about, how I feel about Ray Bourque, but I know I can't put Borky in there. But and then Semyon Varlamov was the goalie for the second team, which actually does. It's kind of because you're like, that's it? Second team over the last 25 years? But then go through the list. After Patrick Waugh, you had the likes of Jose Theodore and J.S. Jaguar, and then Grubauer. I guess you could make the case for Kemper. He's got, as you said, he's got the hardware.
Darcy Kemper does have a ring indeed. And I think when we all saw that list, we're like, wait, what did Varlamov ever win in Denver?
Right.
And Varlamov had his moments for sure, but he played on Avs teams that were fighting for the playoffs, not fighting for the cup. I would have given the nod to Darcy Kemper at that point because I think the tiebreaker would be rings. But it also shows you, Mike, this is why we're all so excited about Mackenzie Blackwood, is you and I spent last week, could he creep into the Vezina Trophy conversation? We never talk about that Vezina Trophy in Denver, Colorado, ever since Patrick Waugh retired. But when you looked at that over the last 25 years, the Avalanche's second best goalie, according to this, the quarter century team, was Semyon Varlamov. Again, I'm not trying to disrespect Varlamov, but those are years of Avs hockey that are just kind of a blur because they weren't very fun years. I would have put Kemper on the list over Varlamov, but again, the numbers probably bear out. It was correct with Semyon.
Yeah, it does, but it does speak volumes that other than Patrick Waugh over the last 25 years, you cannot identify a clear-cut second best Avs goaltender during that time.
It's crazy for sure, and it always creates a lot of debate when those type of lists come out. Mike, we'll do this again on Thursday, hopefully talking about 2 points after the Avs finish off their homestand against the Jets, and we will see you then.